My name is Mike Bevan. I'm a digital leader at Amazon Web Services, and I cover EMEA and the UK. I ran the UK government's digital transformation programme from 2011 to 2015, which tackled transforming 25 government services. Those 25 projects seeded a little cell of digital capability across 12 to 15 departments. So a lot of these teams start with a kind of a bright spark in the middle, and then people coalesce around that, and that gives it real energy and drive. And to find those bright sparks, cheekily, when we were setting up GDS, we borrowed quite heavily from the Amazon leadership principles. So we looked for people who had that bias for action, who were relentlessly focused on, we call them user needs, but they're essentially customer needs. And we also looked for people who would go out and earn trust. So GDS, or the Government Digital Service, was set up in 2011 as part of Cabinet Office. Its first purpose was to be a single hub for digital within the UK government, which had not existed beforehand. And it had kind of two simple missions, really. One was to fix publishing, which is where gov.uk came from, the one sort of source of truth for government information, and then to fix transactions, which was the programme that I ran, which addressed the 25 services across government. So we had three ways of working, which were described as for you, with you, or by you. So the for you would be something like gov.uk, where you create a platform that all departments can put content into. It means that citizens get a consistent way of reading government content, and it's focused around the needs of the user, not around the needs of departments. The second approach is called with you, where people in departments probably need a bit more support. So the amount of people from GDS who in each of those 25 exemplars varied massively, from one or two giving advice to sort of 15 or so on the ground working alongside the teams. Then finally, the by yous were the kind of larger departments. So departments like HMRC and Department for Work and Pensions have a lot of capability. So they didn't really need us to come and tell them what to do, but they needed some standards to work to. So things like the Technology Code of Practice, the Service Manual, the design standards were all there for them to consume so they could get on and run their own work with a bit of support and advice from us. I've worked in private and public sector bodies, which are quite large, been around for hundreds of years, and they're really good at stopping large central programs of change. That's what they do. They have like an immunity system. So I looked at this and thought, if we're going to be successful, we need to take a slightly different approach. Instead of having a big, we are the transformation program, we took a view of saying what we actually need is a network of people working across the departments. But the ownership is with those departments. And also we could show them what good looked like by taking them to other examples. Mike Bracken, who was the leader of GDS at the time, he described the exemplar program as more of a movement than a program. I think transformation happens really well when it becomes a movement that people believe in and get behind. So of the 25, they all went pretty well. 20 of them made it into the public domain within the 2 years. The other 5, for a variety of reasons, kind of handed back to the departments end of the programme as kind of works in progress. But I think the ones that really succeeded had courageous leadership and senior officials who were willing, to be honest, take a bit of personal risk and work outside of what had been the previous perceived norms. The really wonderful thing about the whole idea of using sort of product management techniques and agile techniques to deliver government services is they're kind of never done. It's not complete because users' needs never change. And it's a reason why in AWS, customer obsession is one of our main sort of principles, because to quote Jeff Bezos, I think, customers are always delightfully unhappy. So users always are demanding and need more. So having that product mentality helps public services constantly adapt and change. So once you've created some kind of digital centre in an organisation, the next important thing is to go out and start sort of planting that in amongst all the different departments. But you also need to let that kind of survive. We said it's a bit like growing strawberries on the moon under a glass dome. So you create all these little pockets, but you also need to make sure that that glass dome isn't going to break as soon as you're not there, and those strawberries carry on growing. So you want to grow some of your own capability. And that whole thing evolved through time and eventually became the sort of GDS Digital Academy. I mean, there are another other tactics that you use when you're working with partners as well, where you put your people in alongside the partners and you learn from them. And then you can split and seed teams. But generally, it's around taking those core skills and capabilities and making them part of the norm, not something special. There's a couple of other really key things that go with this. The first one is around diversity, because these skill sets come from different places you'd normally find in large organisations. So if you're looking for people with programming backgrounds, with design backgrounds, they're not the typical areas you would go and look for civil servants. So you need to bring diversity into that equation and build teams who represent the citizens of the UK, because that's what these services are being built for. Then the final one really for me is around culture. And culture needs to change to, I guess, accept that things are going to be done in a different way. My simple definition of culture is the way we do things around here. And you need to change the way you do things around here in order to be successful in this space, because that then means that people stay. Because if you recruit a load of brilliant people, you set them up for success, but you don't give them a culture that they want to be part of, then they're not going to stick around. You need more hands and less eyes. Whenever I've had to draw up a structure chart, I draw it with all the delivery teams at the top. Then I draw it with what I call the orchestration layer, which is the little sort of cloud center of excellence and the tech architects and the lead designers, and then the management sits at the bottom. Because our job is to make sure that they've got everything they need to do what they need, because they're the ones dealing with the customer, and that's the most important part.